Welcome back to Wise and Otherwise, a show where we tell stories, lived experiences, and just make the world a little clearer for us, right?
And now we hear stories,
We hear stories as well, right?
right? We were done telling our stories. Now we have to.
Now we have to hear. So
we don't have to make up stories now, huh? We have real people.
and we promised our audience that we're going to bring guests.
Yeah.
So we are so excited today to have a guest with us, and his name is Omar Zaman. And Omar Zaman is the founder of Zaman Foundation.
The CEO, sorry.
It's the CEO. I apologize. He's the CEO of Zaman Foundation. And Sab Saath, that's the global organization.
Yeah.
So Zaman Foundation is in Pakistan, but its global name is Sab Saath, which means all together.
Right.
Yes.
Right?
The subsidiary of Zaman,
Correct.
right? It's a subsidiary.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, let's introduce our friend and our guest here, Mr. Umar. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm a long way from home. I live in Lahore, Pakistan, but it's great to be joining you here in Houston.
Oh, you're welcome anytime.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah.
So, just to tell our audience, the core theme of your, and you can tell us more about it. What I understand is about clean water, drinking water, water preservation. And that's like the core theme, and obviously it has humanitarian effect, it's like impact, and it's like a lot of other areas it covers, right? But it's centered around clean water and preservation. Is that correct?
That is accurate. And, there's a lot of political talk going on right now globally with everything that's happening in Iran and Venezuela and with Trump. And it's inescapable. You can't escape it. But inevitably, oil comes up when you talk about
What do you think?
global politics. But what people fail to see is that over the next 15 to 20 years, water is going to be the new oil. Because a lot of your warfare in the next 20 years, and I hope to God I'm wrong, but the stats say otherwise, and the science says otherwise, a lot of the wars are going to be and conflicts are going to be fought over water. And one example of this is Indo-Pak relations right now. Because India has, as we know, I'm not going to get into whether it's right or wrong, but India has, unilaterally reneged on its obligations under the Indus Water Treaty. Yes. And that is a big point of contention. So providing access to clean drinking water, I'll get into that in just a bit. That's one major goal. But now conserving water as well and maintaining access to water with climate emergencies and global politics and the shifts in the world order, I think that's very critical.
We've been talking about this for 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
Movies like Mad Max and like, all those things were about water conservation and water preservation. So unfortunately, we are heading in that direction. People don't listen and people don't heed.
And water's getting polluted as well. Right?
Yes, absolutely.
So that's a good point you made. But growing up in Pakistan when we were young, many years ago.
Many years ago.
So we had this idea that water issue is something related to the continent of Africa. But we had our own problems, But we never realized it, or we were never been educated about it.
It's almost somebody else's problem.
Yeah, exactly. And then when things we were much more aware, then we knew that it's a major issue in Pakistan.
Yep.
And it's getting more acute as we speak. 10 million children in Pakistan don't have access to clean drinking water. 40% of all deaths in Pakistan are related to waterborne illnesses. That's
across the country.
Across the country. 145 children die daily. So that's about 53,000 kids a year. But overall, about 40% deaths are related to waterborne illnesses. And that's around 650,000 deaths a year. So that's the problem on the health side. That's the health crisis. Now, there's another aspect to it, which is with the climate emergency and the shifting climate patterns, there's going to be a lot of water scarcity in the world. And Pakistan is amongst the 3 top most water scarce countries in the world. And this is through no fault of our own. So we're not causing global warming. We're only, I think, less than 1% of global.
Yeah, we are way down in the list.
Yeah, we're like 0.2 or 0.4. Yeah, we're way down on the list. And but unfortunately, or rather fortunately, it's how you look at it, even though we're not responsible for it, how we respond to it, we're responsible for.
Yes.
So it's about time that Pakistanis wake up, they, they read the room, they see what, we're headed towards. And, you were just talking about Mad Max and all these movies that have been, projecting this over the last 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
So it's about time, and I hope, as they say in the States, that the chickens don't come home to roost.
Right. And Omar, that is the reason I'm so glad you made it a global initiative, because it's like people think, oh, we are fine, everybody. It impacts everybody. Right?
does.
Whatever you do in one part of the world, it impacts the other side.
Yeah.
Right. It does. You can try to build and erect as many walls as you want. But ultimately, how interconnected the world has gotten, there's no going back. There's no going back.
So as you say that, my question arises in my mind of saying, okay, so what's the cost of Pakistanis taking charge of this and fixing their problem? And then I juxtapose that with the question of saying, how much money do we spend dropping bombs on other people, right?
Yeah.
From here or from other parts of the world that can afford to not do that? And how much are we doing to destroy ourselves, much less preserve ourselves, right? And so what you are doing becomes critical in this kind of ecosystem of saying, we have to self-realize and do something on our own and not wait for somebody else to do something. So, it's great.
Absolutely, we got to wake up. And you were mentioning what all we can do. The very simple steps that everyone can take. One of them is, and you don't even have to donate to an NGO. One of the simplest steps you can do is that if you're going to be making a home in Pakistan, in an urban area, make a water recharge well within your home. And it doesn't take a lot of space. It doesn't take a lot of money. And what a water recharge well does, for anyone who doesn't know, is that when you get rainwater or flood water, it re-injects the water back into the earth, because the earth is the best container and storer of water. It filters
And purifier,
and purifies. And purifies. Soil filters it, and then your water table remains intact. And in a place like Lahore, your water table is going down by more than 3 feet per year.
Wow.
So when I was growing up, you would find water about 80 feet down if you drilled in Lahore. Now it's gone up to 200 feet. In some areas, it's have to go deeper. In interior Sindh, where we're working, you have to dig anywhere between 500 to 700 feet.
Wow.
South Punjab is similarly also, you have to go further down.
And what's making it like going down?
We're not conserving the water. It's
conserving.
because when there's rainwater or flood water, as the water travels down from north to south, we're letting it go into the ocean, into the rivers. And this is what our neighbor India is doing really well. They've built dams. They're very conscientious of preserving and conserving water. So they're far ahead of us in this game than we ought to be.
I was reading someplace that dams is not the only kind of solution.
Recharge wells, I guess. They're very doable. People can make them in their home. That's what they're called. In the north, we can make mini ponds. And again, what they do is that they contain the water, and then they help it soak back into the earth.
So they are like mud filled.
Yes. Yeah. So very simple solution.
From an engineering perspective, just to explain it, the earth absorbs water and it goes through this filtration system. And so you have this water table, right, under the soil. When you pump the water out, how to get the water back in there is going to be the problem. So these recharge wells basically are a reverse well. You dig a tube deep down and you send the water back in. Okay? Because if you just let rainwater come, it's just going to get absorbed by the surface. And eventually the soil will dry out, it'll go back up or it'll go to the sea. Right? So you're not getting it back in the system. In the 80s, Saudi Arabia started an agricultural process. They started raising some crops or whatever. In a very short amount of time, I believe it was 5 or 7 years, their water table went down by about 3 feet nationally. And they realized that it takes about 10,000 years for that 3 feet to come back. So if you just keep pumping that much every year and it takes you 10,000 years to refill it, do the math. You're going to run it out. So I think it is absolutely imperative that you re-inject back to the source. You're pumping it all out. It's like pumping oil out of the ground.
Yeah.
It was built, the reason it's so scarce,
for millions of
it was there for millions of years, and you pump it back out, there's nothing to replace it.
nothing to replace it.
This we can at least replace with because there's the
Yeah,
water.
and I'm so glad that you clarify that, because most people, when you talk about a recharge well, they assume that it's a well that you're going to draw water out from.
No, you put it back.
Yeah, it's the exact opposite. We do, construct wells for the purposes of providing access to clean drinking water. That's a separate project that we do. But this recharge bit is very important.
Yeah.
And I hope that it catches on, and that everyone in their homes, wherever they are, they make these ponds and recharge.
And this is not just Pakistan. This is all over the world.
This is a global issue. Yeah. So, Omar, I mean, we will continue to talk about this. This is great. But I want to go back to the journey, right? So, somewhere before Zaman Foundation, you were doing something.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden something happened, or something made you say that, okay, I got to do something different, or do something bigger than myself, or something, whatever the transformation was.
And so then we were digging into your backstory, and so you are born in lap of luxury,
That's correct.
So how a person
Just like you.
I think so. I'm no more luxury, but just a lap of luxury.
Friends like you, Dhuni's enemies, huh?
So how that consciousness built up into you that you have to do something this amazing, take this responsibility on your shoulders.
Yeah. So for me, it was more than a pendulum swing. It was coming full circle. Basically, when I studied at university in Vancouver, Canada, West Coast kid, stayed there for several years. I studied liberal arts. So I studied philosophy, politics, comparative religion, and history. And so I studied the Quran and the Bible. That was my passion. Trying to connect God. And I did a lot of community work when I was there. It was for Pakistan, it was for Palestine, and it was for the Vancouver community as well at large. And when I was graduating, I figured that I was born in the lap of luxury, like you said, very blessed. And I have this amazing platform, which is a family business. And what is the best social work that I can do? And I figured that actually ethically run business is the best social work. And I stand by that till today. I have very high regard for businessmen and business people. And so I went back. I did about a decade in the family business, which is fashion retail.
One of the biggest fashion retail, how is it by
Pakistan, and courtesy of that, I walked a couple of international fashion week ramps as well.
Oh wow!
Saw some interesting photos and some interesting.
Yes, we wrote to see pictures of this. That is a hidden talent here,
But so yeah, I went and I worked for a decade, and I have to say that was the best exposure that someone who wanted to do social work could have gotten, because I think when you get into a business and learn systems, structures, strategy making, it really equipped me for the charity side. And after a decade of working, when I reached the top for the brand that I was working for, I kept asking myself the same question. If by the time I'm 50 and this brand is churning out X million dollars of profit a year, how satisfied does that make me? And it wasn't just an overnight
As a
thing.
human.
Yeah, as a human. How fulfilled will I be? And it wasn't overnight. I kept asking myself this question over about a period of a year. And at no point in that year was I able to bring myself to say that, okay, if I earn X million dollars profit this year for the brand, I will be satisfied.
That never came into
I would have arrived as a human being, you know. That answer never came. And so I saw that I'm in a place of deep privilege where I do have a family business backing me. I have 3 older brothers who are working in the family business. So I was afforded this opportunity to be able to carve out a different path. And I mean, as a Desi dad, my father, not only allowing it, but supporting it. And hats off to him.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And so I've been able to follow this path for the last 7 years, and I don't regret it one bit.
You don't regret. So
we never said that the filmy dialogue, मैं तुम्हें आग करता हूँ. I'll just disown.
Nothing on this sort. Yeah.
Did you personally lose anything? Do you feel like in the last 7 years? Suppose you have gone to that path, right?
Yeah.
You feel you have lost something?
I did lose a few things, but I got them returned to me bigger and better with just a short delay. So I think one of the things that I lost was my salary. Because in the first 2 years, when I quit, I didn't have a salary. I was on the verge of, I had been promoted to general manager. So I lost that, the perks. You lose power and influence because when you're the general manager of a brand, people are cozying up to you. They want business from you. You're being invited to dinners. People want to be seen with you, photographed with you. Of course. Even as a business owner, even though you're not a celebrity. But so I lost that. But the way I look at it, it was actually a gain. I knew who really meant well for me. I was able to reflect.
Found the real friends.
Yeah, and about the real friends. Yeah, and then, God gave back everything manifold. So with as we grew older, became shareholders in the business, started getting what I lost temporarily from the salary, I started getting from the business, and so on.
So this transition, I will call it a transition. So so this, where you said it started when you were in Vancouver, but before that too, growing up, were there any signs of it? Or the family was like that? They were into
Yes,
charities
there was a lot. I'm glad you brought that up. There was a lot of influence from within my parents, my grandparents, and the larger family.
Okay.
So, for example, my mom used to spend long hours at the hospital in the 90s. I would see her with random patients. They were illiterate. She'd be going to the doctor as their attendant. And, they knew her as the Gadi Wali Bibi, who comes with...
Within a car.
with the, old, poor people and, goes to doctors with them. And so my father was, whenever there would be a disaster, my father, my chacha, they would be the first people to leave business and go to the disaster area and work. It was 1988, it was 2005.
Yeah.
So, that's actually where Zaman Foundation officially started, was in the earthquake in Kashmir in 2005. So I saw my parents do this. I saw my, Nana, who was an Air Force officer, what he would do is that, work his entire life to get an asset. And as soon as a family member needed, had a need come up, he would sell the asset and fulfill that need. So, at a big scale, small scale, and then just to wrap, the answer up, my Popo, she runs Care Foundation, which educates about 400,000 kids in Pakistan.
In your family?
Yeah, so my father's mommy, she runs SOS villages in Pakistan, which has more than 50 orphanages in Pakistan. And just these amazing women in particular, also the men, but amazing women in the family doing really powerful social work at the home level as well as, at an institutional level. So I think the exposure to that has been key in nurturing that side.
So it's not a typical philanthropy where you just go and just distribute food or something like that. Yeah, it's more than that.
It was to, my father always says, he has a motto, he says excellence, significance, institutionalization. And when he says institutionalization, because I'm a student of religion and comparative religion, especially the Quran. And, for me, the Urdu word or the Arabic word for institutionalization is Sadqa Jariya. We look at Sadqa Jariya and all of these Urdu and Arabic terms as very religious terms. They're not. We've made them into these, very religiously charged terms. And yes,
very narrow term.
Yes, narrow term. They have religious aspects, no doubt. But for me, Sadqa Jariya is institutionalized philanthropy. So I took that from my father, the business prowess, the institutionalization, and the drive for excellence. I'm very, very blessed and lucky that I have their full support, my family's support, to be able to try to direct that towards the philanthropic side.
There's a lot of people that give charity,
Yeah.
but the jariya part, the continuation goes away.
Yeah.
Right?
That was it.
So if they feed somebody,
Yeah.
you give them that meal, but you don't give them the ability to do the next meal.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's different about Sab Saath and Zaman.
Yeah.
Because what's your motto? That
Helping people help themselves.
helping people help themselves. So I think that is the key part, right?
Yeah.
So you want to talk a little bit about how that process works?
Absolutely. So my father, he learned from business. What he did, he taught it to us. He said, there's no free lunch. Everything in Urdu, we say, Male Muft, Dile Be Rehem. We take for granted whatever we've gotten for free. So even God doesn't say that I'm going to give you heaven for free. He's very generous, he's merciful, But he says, work for it, right? It's not going to be handed to you on a silver platter. No luxury in the lab. So you got to work for it. So similarly, on the charitable side, he said that we're not going to make anything for free. So we go to communities, we tell communities, this is for your benefit. So you pitch in 10 to 20% of the cost of this project. Number one. Number two, we're going to train you. Number three, we're going to keep providing assistance in the form of monitoring and expertise, but you have to run this project. So whenever we set up a water project, the community pitches in about 20% of the cost. They donate the land for the project. We train them, and then we continue to monitor them. And that's why our water projects continue to run. The Jariya and the Sadqa Jariya, alhamdulillah, remains, because the biggest problem with water projects is that they require maintenance. And it's because of that water projects shut down. I'm sure all of you know, I'm sure you know someone or the other जिसने कुआं लगवाया होगा. They must have had a well dug for their,
in the backyard.
But this, exactly. As well-intentioned as all of these water projects are, I am giving you my witness from on ground that maximum, a few years, they're shut down. They're shut down. There's no ownership from the community.
Because the pump's life is 18 months, 2 years, right? I mean, maximum. So if the pump is down, you're not maintaining it.
And it's not about the money. It's about, for example, if it takes a couple of thousand to repair and there are 3,000 villagers benefiting, they're all looking at each other thinking who's going to foot the bill.
Right.
So no one takes the initiative, right?
No.
So we act as that catalyst.
This model,
they
own it.
Yeah, they own it. And we're the trustworthy party and the bridge in the middle. We say that, all right, let's get to know each other. We're putting in 80%. You put in the other 20%. We'll keep holding your hand, but you got to run in.
So how do you pick up those people, like 10, 12 people, whatever, from their village to like operate those?
So that's so what happens is that generally villages approach us.
Okay.
Because when we put up our first project in a gaon, in a village in Pakistan, in a remote area, and we work all across the country.
Okay.
Gaon system has its own WhatsApp, which is offline. You do one thing in a gaon, it reaches a gaon like 100 kilometers away.
All that is your villages, housewives.
There's intermarriages, right? And so the news spreads as good as WhatsApp, right? Okay. And so when we inaugurated our first project in a remote area, we had elders from 3 to 4 other villages already present at the inauguration, saying, we know about your conditions, please come to our village and set it up. So when we set it up, then we ask them to make a committee which is representative of all of the bradaris or the castes in the village. So they do that. It's normally between 7 to 10 members, and it's apolitical, it's a-religious,
non-sectarian.
it's non-sectarian.
Sectarian.
So what we do is that we set that up, then we train the committee, and then the committee is who we're in touch with, and it's the job of the committee to collect the monthly maintenance fee to run that plan.
So the committee is selected by the village itself.
Yes.
So it's democratically kind of done, and they've recognized you as designees.
Yeah. It's not democratic in the way we understand it in the US.
Right. But in those people have
Because everyone
decided.
knows who in the village, absolutely, Because
know
everyone
the
in the village
leader
knows who their leaders are.
Yeah.
So they'll, and different castes or sections have different leaders, right?
Correct.
So they'll put forward all of the leaders. So for example, in Tharparkar, where we're working, in interior Sindh, one of the most water scarce areas on the planet.
On the planet,
On the planet, over there, our committees are half Hindu, half Muslim. So we look at the makeup of the local population we're serving, and then we demand that the committee is representative of that.
So you're talking about Tharparkar and those. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
So it's non-religious, non-sectarian,
That's right.
This is basically for everyone.
Water is for everyone.
Water is that doesn't know.
We
Where
can't,
you came from.
You can't give a religious use to water. Again, one of those things like Sadqa Jariya. There's so much Sadqa Jariya in the US, Stanford, Princeton, Harvard. Sadqa Jariya. But it's the way you look at it. I mean, we've made Sadqa Jariya, like we were discussing, a low
Religious chara or something.
It's Sadqa Jariya.
True.
So let's talk a little bit about another topic, trust. Right. So obviously trust is big in humanitarian, any humanitarian work you do. You have to build the trust with, like you said, with the communities, that they say, okay, we believe you, you're going to come and put 80%, you put 20%, whatever, right? But it's a continuous thing, and it's easy to lose the trust, right? And on top of that, there's also a lot of work. How do you, what is your perspective of how do you gain that trust from communities, and also obviously you want people to contribute in this foundation, right?
Yeah.
So what do they look for, or what are the things you do differently that others don't do? Because there's a trust deficit.
Yeah.
I'm just being honest, right?
So with us, you absolutely nailed it. Sarosh bhai, there is a trust deficit, and we're very cognizant of that. And the only product that an NGO world over, this is the case globally, really has to sell is integrity and credibility. The second your integrity or credibility is questioned, you had it as a non-profit.
Yeah.
Right. And in Pakistan, like you said, there's a huge trust deficit. So how we tackle it is in a couple of ways. One of them is that we offer radical transparency. Whether you've donated us $1 or whether you've donated, $10,000, we're going to very quickly show you where that money was spent. So, for example, I think Imran bhai has had this experience. He performed Qurbani or the bigger Eid with us last year. So by the third day of Eid maximum, you get a video.
The video with your name and the
Qurbani in a remote part in Pakistan, and you see where the meat is being distributed. So it's for people who want to feed hungry people, let's say in Pakistan, in the remotest areas. It's a great way to be sitting in Houston, just press a few buttons, and in $40, $60, $100, you're feeding quality meat to people in the most far-flung areas in Pakistan, and getting the
receipt, visuals.
But that's a huge task.
Huge.
To do that.
But I mean, to hear your, when they're distributing it, they take your name and you get that on a video. I mean, you're like, okay, this was actually done. It was not, just like.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what's coming next, right? So I know we're going to talk about future plans, but in the near future, what's coming? What's coming to Houston, like for example, or in the US, right? Tell us a little bit about your short-term plan.
So the short-term plan, we had a fundraiser in Houston yesterday. We have another fundraiser plan in Dallas on the 7th of February. And so that'll pretty much wrap up the fundraising tour for this leg, because we already had one back in January in New Jersey. We beat the storm. God. So we were able to beat it by 1 day. And so it's gone well. And so I think immediate term, that's what's happening. And then I head back to Pakistan and roll up the sleeves, get back to more work, inshallah, and look to, set up more recharge wells, more pond rejuvenation, repairing funked ponds, and setting up more water projects that give people access to clean drinking water.
And what's your team like when you, like the organization?
So our organization in Pakistan employs 28 people. We're 12 women and the rest are men. Very diverse team, different religions, different ethnicities, languages. I think 5 languages in the team, which I really love my workplace. So it's more like a family. So about 28 paid employees, and we have a network of volunteers. And then the communities are pretty much like our teams, because once we train them, we're in touch. They are on ground team. So that's what it looks like. We have a couple of board members. I'm the chief executive. And one board member is Selina Rashid Khan. She's the founder and CEO of Lotus PR. It's a very well-renowned PR firm back in Pakistan. And then my chacha and my uncle and my brother, they're part of the board. So that's the board, and that's the team.
So now, any future plan to replicate this to the rest of the world as well, where the issue is prevalent?
Over the next year or two, we first want to, expand our footprint within Pakistan, really cover all our bases, and we are Pakistan-centric. I mean, even the Palestinians that we're helping the Palestinians that are migrating to Pakistan. But we've not really been, beyond very small measures, we've not really been trying to intervene within, that region. Because we're very clear, our first priority is Pakistan. That by no means I mean to say that we don't respect other causes or that they're not valid.
But it's a huge population.
But it's a huge population. If we don't get our house in order,
you can't help us. As they say, you have to put your mask first before you.
Absolutely. You gotta tie your own seatbelt first. You gotta give yourself the oxygen first, like you said.
But if somebody comes to you for help from any other country, so you have that kind of book which you can that you can
Like
kind
a
of
playbook.
like a playbook. Okay, I'm not.
But the IP, I guess, or the execution
IP.
plan.
All right.
Yeah.
So I didn't fully understand the question.
So I mean, if somebody come from another country, so you can help them, replicate the same thing.
So the reason why we're called Sab Saath here, even though Zaman Foundation is our name in Pakistan, like you mentioned in the beginning, Sab Saath means all together. We very quickly realized that any global problem, poverty, illiteracy, climate emergency, whatever you want to name,
These are global
none of these issues can be resolved by one person or one entity.
For one
You can be as rich as Bill Gates. You can be as powerful as the United States. You can be as knowledgeable as whichever country you like, but you can't solve it until we work together. And this is not a motivational mantra or a line. It's a feel good. It's not for a feel good factor. It is the only way.
Yeah, that's the only way.
And you can look at a family. We can't raise a family alone. We have wives that help us out. We help them, and then the children help us out. We nurture them. So it's all it what goes around comes around. We help each other. It can't be done alone.
So this is a very nice name, Sab Saath. But who came up with this name?
This name was basically, I would say, myself and a friend of mine, Babar. So both of us back in COVID, it's a COVID baby. We said, with COVID, couldn't handle it alone. So we said, we're in this together. And so we call it Sab Saath. And so our goal is to actually work with other organizations and people, institutions, and to affect as much change as we can together.
So because my background is from advertising, so I started in advertising. So one of the initial things that we used to do, like product names, and stuff like that. No, here's ChatGPT and
So on that note, so if somebody wants to find out more about this Sab Saath or Zaman Foundation, so what do they do, and they want to contribute in this effort, right? So what would I do, or what would anybody, our audience, do?
All you have to do is go to subsaath.org. That's SABSAATH.org. There's info on there on how you can donate. There's info on what all we're doing. And it's very easy to help, because even $7 will provide access to clean drinking water for one person in Pakistan for 1 year.
1 year.
$7 for one person.
That's like a
for 1 year.
latte.
Right? But if you have whatever coffee people have here, if you have it, that one coffee will provide clean drinking water for one person in Pakistan for 1 year.
Yeah, the matcha drink.
Yeah.
They can say, one other matcha drink.
Yeah. So, matcha appreciated. I am from the Punjab. If you keep me here another 10 minutes, you get a lot of these puns. Yeah, that's good.
So there's so much to talk about, again. So
I was just going to say that, I think we should do this again. This is your second trip to Houston. You'll be back next year, inshallah. So we'll do this.
Every time you're in Houston, we'll do this.
Fantastic. I'll take you up on
absolutely.
camera.
And because we'll be achieving more landmarks.
Yes. I was also going to say, next time one of us goes to Pakistan, we would also.
You would love doing is these road trips in Pakistan, and the food that you get in the villages and the hospitals.
One last thing, any inspirations, your role model, people you look
For young professionals who are coming up, what is your message?
My message to young professionals is that if you just keep your eyes and your heart open, you will find inspiration, and I don't say this lightly, in every relationship that you have around you. There will be some inspiring facet. I have been inspired by my first pet, a black Labrador that was with me for 15 years. That Labrador taught me a lot of empathy, inspired empathy in me, and he taught me how you can take care of a good friend. Whenever he would sense that I'm under threat, even though labs are generally not aggressive, he would be there, as my shield.
Protecting.
Yeah. So, it can be an animal, it can be, nature, it can be your mother, your father, people, होते हैं ना, उर्दू में we say, घर की मुर्गी दाल बराबर. You know, you take things for granted.
Yeah.
So if you look around you, I mean, your parents, your grandparents, your siblings, your friends, you know, your staff, people that work for you, and I found this in the best leaders. I found that they do find inspiration in all of their interactions. It's not just you know, limited to this one person or this, you know. So I would say keep you know, your keep your antennas open, clear, and keep receiving.
Okay,
know?
great. That sounds
Well, thank you so much. This was amazing.
And
I really enjoyed it. Thank you for having me.
but the thing is, when Imran told us about you, that he's inviting you, so I thought maybe there will be some old haggard like him. That's
Why did I have to be an old-handed guy?
no, but we were expecting such a young guy, and that's great because we want to interact with all ages, you know, and get there. But he's been a big inspiration for us.
Thank you. That's very kind of you.
So and we are hoping to see you in Lahore and in Pakistan.
In Pakistan for a road trip, and then next year here in Houston.
Absolutely.
Sure. And thanks again for your time.
My pleasure.
With that, we will end our show, and give us your comments. Tell us about how you feel about Zaman Foundation, Sab Saath, and any comments. Give
And
it
any
to us.
ideas you have,
Any
to
idea.
your community and your neighborhood.
Exactly.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Fine.